How's it going, guys? Coffee here. Today I wanted to showcase the new build that I've been playing, and that is Impending Doom Spellblade Pathfinder. For this build, I am using Breath of the Council as my Spellblade weapon because of the fact that it has chaos damage as well as increased area of effect, as well as some skill duration for chaos skills. So this does end up working here for Impending Doom. It does end up helping us out here. With Spellblade support, this does come out roughly about the same or slightly ahead of using Apep's Rage with Awaken Deadly Ailments. The flip side to this is that, again, we get to use a different weapon. We do get to have a little bit more area of effect on this as well, and our damage is slightly higher. I am using the Defiance of Destiny amulet on this, and this paired along with the near full Fizz to elemental conversion for damage taken, it does lead to a ton of survivability. In regards to the build required uniques for this, I would recommend for the build that are the version I am playing, you do need to get a lightning coil. You do need a Dawnbreaker. It doesn't need to be corrupted, as well as Defiance of Destiny, and then of course the Vixen's Entrapments for Impending Doom. And then outside of that, the other important things are basically just going to be you do need cooldown recovery on your belt and your boots. There's a spreadsheet I'll show after this that's going to kind of go over. There are specific breakpoints for the amount of cast speed that you have versus the amount of cooldown recovery that you have. So there's certain breakpoints when you reach 25% cooldown recovery and when you reach 50% cooldown recovery. In this current version that I have here, I'm at 53% cooldown recovery as soon as I've cast Temporal Change because of the Balance of Terror gem here, or jewel rather. This does increase my cooldown recovery rate as long as I've cast Temporal Chains, with Temporal Chains being the spell that I'm casting. This does trigger this. Temporal Chains does have to be the spell that you are casting. If you're using this on trigger, it will not work. Keep that in mind. You can see here for the build that I am running, again, we have a large cluster jewel here, followed with a couple medium clusters, one of them with Spiked Concoction and Brewed for Potency. We do need Alchemist Genius because we need the extra flask charges and the extra flask effect. And then we need Septic Spells and Wicked Pall. The other important things that are on here, or things that we're doing, the version that this build currently is pretty expensive, mainly because a lot of the alternate quality gems, I am using a Divergent Inspiration, Divine Blessing, and Anomalous Increased Duration in order to have 0 cost on my Divine Blessing Malevolence, as well as 0 cost on everything else. As long as you have Alchemist Genius, then your Temporal Change will cost nothing, as well as all of your spells will cost nothing. In order to get this, you do have to have non-channeling skills have minus mana cost on these. You can get away with just using Iolite rings for these, but it does mean that you will end up needing to use catalysts on them. So if you are going to go that route, make sure you catalyst your rings while they're white. So you only have to use 4 fertiles in order to get this up to that -8. Or you can buy rings that have the full -10 amount if you can find any good ones that actually have chaos damage. But my recommendation is to still just roll these with essences. So you essence craft the rings to get the extra chaos damage on them until you hit life, and then with an open prefix for the mana. On your boots, you're just going to want suppression, move speed, and then you are going to want to hit cooldown recovery rate. If you are going for the full amount of reaching level or 50% cooldown recovery, you have a few different options. You have your Balance of Terror jewel here that goes anywhere between 20 and 25%, as well as you can get up to 20% on your belt, and then the rest of it is going to be coming from your boots. The breakpoints again are 25% or 50. Anything in between 25% and 50% is basically worthless, so don't worry about making this change until you know you can afford to get to the higher amount. I ended up spending like a good 300 or 400 embers trying to roll cooldown recovery on a different pair of boots before I just ended up buying these ones that already have 10% cooldown recovery on it. So keep in mind the weight on the mod isn't that low, but you can just get unlucky. So I had a version of the boots that I was rolling that had suppress and onslaught, but I just got really unlucky trying to roll this, and it ended up costing me quite a few divines. Like I spent almost 5 divines on these boots, and then I was able to just buy these boots for 2 divine. So my recommendation would be to buy some boots with cooldown recovery rate on them. If you can find any boots with this 10% cooldown recovery rate, it's not that hard to just craft some boots with spell suppress and movement speed and some life. You can kind of roll those with essences or fossils or whatever you need. It's definitely going to come in most likely less than what it would cost to roll at least 7%. Because you only do need 50% cooldown reduction, the price on the Balance of Terrors bounces anywhere between like 6 div to I believe a perfect roll of this is like 12 or 15 divines. So if you can buy one of these that's either like a 21 or 22%, because you're able to get 20% on your belt or even 19% on your belt, then that means you need less from your boots. So it should be cheaper to get just the 10% cooldown recovery rate on the boots, because they can just drop like that, based in just from maps, just from Atlas points. So then that removes pressure from needing like an exact perfect roll of cooldown recovery rate on your belt. In order to get this, it does require either a Shaper or a Crusader belt mod for this. It is a higher weight mod on Shaper than it is for Crusader, so if you are going to buy between the two, I would just buy a Shaper one if you're going to roll it, or my recommendation is to just look for them and find it that way. So you will notice one of the other things here, we do have tattoos on pretty much everything. We are very attribute starved, so you are converting a lot of these ints nodes into +4 attributes, and then you are rolling a more +4 attributes on some of your other dex nodes, and then after that you end up needing to get some flask effect duration. I believe I have 5 of these in here if I remember correctly. There's 5 increased flask effect duration tattoos, and then you can see all the different attribute tattoos that are here. This character is pretty new still. Like none of the gear is final. Like I do need to make better gear still. I need to make a better ring for both of these. This one doesn't have any life on it. This ring can probably be made better because I do need more chaos resistance. I had chaos resistance, but it is now gone. So again, we just need to do some crafting still, but this is interim gear that works for now, and even with negative 29% chaos resistance, this character is incredibly tanky. Let's go ahead and pull up Path of Building, and I will show you what we got going on here. So this is the current version that I actually have here for the default here. Basically what we have, as you can see here, we are running, oh, this changed up all these jewels. I was showcasing, I guess, what the build could be without having to need all the Grand Spectrums that I'm using. These are purely optional. The version I'm running, I just happen to have Grand Spectrum jewels already from another character, so I moved them over in order to use Frenzy Charges. As you can see here, Frenzy Charges do add a decent amount of damage here, but no, they're not. Let me see. I think they're automatically applying because of the gem here. It's recognizing them, because if I remove it, it should lower the. There we go. It lowers the damage. You can see here it's about 2 million DPS for the frenzy charge, for the +3 minimum frenzy charges rather. And then if you look at the cooldown recovery rate, you end up needing to do this manually because the Balance of Terror gem isn't recognized. There is a spreadsheet that shows the specific breakdowns for roughly what you're looking for in regards to cast speed versus the amount of cooldown recovery that you have. If you want to like have picture perfect, like very specific DPS, I will include the link to the spreadsheet as well. So you can see here, depending on the amount of cooldown reduction that you have, there are limits on how much cast speed you want. Otherwise, you will be basically lowering your damage by going over these points, because based on the time of the server tick, it will basically cause a larger delay before the next trigger would occur because of where your casts are landing in regards to that. So if you see the same thing here, basically in regards to like a cast speed hard cap, depending on your cooldown reduction rate, again, as you see here at 25 is where the cooldown reduction rate basically caps at 150% cast speed, all the way until you get up to 50 CDR. Then you can go up to 200% cast speed, because you will notice like the cooldown or the cast rate or the trigger rate on Vixens is 0.25 seconds, and the trigger rate on Impending Doom is 0.15 seconds. So this is what causes that desync to where you need to have very specific breakpoints in regards to your cast speed and your CDR. So again, if we go back to the sheet here, you can see at 53% or 53 CDR, which is what I have, the like a min-maxed perfect amount of cast speed would be 155%. But that can go all the way up to 200. My character is currently at 168%. So it would be beneficial for me to lower this, is basically what it's saying. I should be using a ring that doesn't have cast speed on it for my specific case here. Even though the ring that I have does have cast speed on it, it does mean that, you know, I want to go get a ring that doesn't have that cast speed, because it is actually lowering my damage by having it right now. As you can see here, in regards to the defensive stats, the max hit on this is fairly high. Once we do have the chaos resistance completed, then or back up again. Once the gear is finished, then we what is it? Plus 100% increase chaos resistance. What is it? Plus 100% chaos resistance. There we go. 110%. The max hit on chaos does end up going up to 16k. You're not really going to run into much things that are going to be doing that much chaos damage. The majority of the time, what you're going to run into is going to be chaos degen. For this, we do end up running Lethe Shade, as well as running the Pantheon for what's it called? Soul of Arakali. So we have an extra 40% chaos resistance against damage over time. This does help dramatically with the damage that you're taking, because again, the majority of the chaos damage you are taking isn't going to be chaos damage from hit, it's going to be chaos damage from damage over time. And yeah, so I did include a budget version of the items for the Path of Building. For these, again, you can just get a non-corrupted version of Breath of the Council. You just want one with a high chaos damage roll and a high physical damage roll. And then for a Dawnbreaker, you can just go for a normal one. You do want to, if you are going to buy a Dawnbreaker, my recommendation is to ensure that you buy one with the max roll on the physical damage taken as fire. If you can get 20%, then that's going to be my recommendation. I use a corrupted one, so it goes up to like 26, I think, on mine. But 20%, you're still going to be better than nothing. Your physical max hit will go down, as you can see here, by 4 or 5k, but it's not the end of the world. Same thing goes, I'm using a 6 white lightning coil. Once things are going to be upgraded eventually, the plan will be using a +2 lightning coil, a +2 AoE lightning coil, but that's like pushing this build. It's already like incredibly expensive as it is, and that's pushing it to just like a whole new level of kind of where it would be. Yeah, so same thing goes in regards to boots. You could you can get Onslaught on boots if you need it, but again, you might not need that cast speed, or you might not want that cast speed, so bear in mind, or keep in mind, that you do use that spreadsheet before you end up going that route. And then same goes with, if you want to just stick at 25% cooldown reduction, you can avoid getting Balance of Terror, because this item costs pretty much as the rest of the items on the character. In regards to the jewels here if you don't want to use grand spectrums, because this is like 30 something div in grand spectrums. You can just use the normal jewels here. If you do notice these, like if I just swap these into like 3 damage jewels, the damage isn't actually that much different. You won't really notice the difference in the damage that much. The damage is pretty much going to be the same. The only thing you're giving up is basically these endurance charges, which is just a little bit of survivability. So keep in mind, if you just want to save a bunch of money, you don't want to have to go that route, you don't want to have to deal with it, then you can just get yourself some basically triple damage jewels, and you're going to get roughly the same damage either way. Last thing is, let me go ahead and showcase what this build can do in some maps, as well as some bosses, and I'll go ahead and include that footage now. So I'm going to just showcase a map right now. I am using a pretty obscure or kind of random Atlas strategy here. I am running Abyss, Legion, and Expedition. So let's go ahead and showcase that. One of the things I do appreciate most about this character in this build is that because of how tanky it is, you're not hitting any flasks. You can basically almost play the game one-handed. You don't really have to be doing anything. You're basically hitting your Malevolence every now and then to trigger it, as well as, well, let's make sure we don't grab this monsters are immune to curses here, or we're going to brick our set here. Let's make sure no monsters are immune to curses. I didn't go over that, right? Monsters are immune to curses. So one of the other things, again, because of how tanky this build is, you can pretty much just sit in things like this and not really have to worry about things. Nothing's going to really be able to kill you outside of like standing in some degen that you shouldn't really be taking. But other than that, I like to use Gloom Shrines, just it adds an extra little bit of clear here. And then we are running this Abyss strategy here. So this map is probably going to take a little bit of time, but we'll just go ahead and showcase everything still. We'll go through most of this. As you can see here, the damage on it is pretty good. The clear on it is pretty nice. And because of the fact that you can kind of just stand in things, you don't really have to worry about much. You can just, you know, clear a map at your leisure and not be too concerned about what's going on. So with the Abysses, with this strategy, I am getting 4 minimum Abysses every time with guaranteed Stygian Vices, so that's why I'm running this. I'll go over the map strategy in another video after this, but let's go ahead and finish this here. And then we'll go ahead and showcase this in Delve, because this is a build also works very, very well in Delve. Let's go through. But as you can see here, I mean, even if we get to some of the tankier Delirium mobs, we don't really, again, we still don't have to worry about anything because the necklace kind of carrying us so much. We can, again, just really sit in any of this content where typically you're going to be getting stormed by a lot of monsters that are going to be hitting you a ton of times, like Abyss. You know, a lot of these rares like to pop out and start spinning immediately on top of people, and that's one of the ways that you'll get yourself killed on a lot of other characters. On this, it's not something you have to worry about because of that Defiance of Destiny necklace, so we can kind of take our time with this. We are chasing this Abyss, which I don't normally do Delirium, but because of this exact reason, the fact that Abyss likes to travel backwards, which it doesn't really work the best with Delirium, but it does increase the rewards you're getting. So as you see, we still got to 6 rewards on the Deli here, even with this kind of going backwards here. We should get an Abyssal Depths on this. We pretty much get them almost every time with this, so hopefully I can showcase a Lich for you guys as well. Again, pretty much the only reason why I have to use my left hand is to toggle Malevolence every now and then, as well as I can toggle Plague Bearer. It's not necessary, but it just does add a little bit of extra damage. Same thing goes for Legion here. You are using Punishment as one of your curses, so this does have a little bit of extra AoE, because since we're not using Deadly Ailments, we do get a little bit of tiny explosions from that. Other than that, you have Gloom Shrine if you really need to for most maps, which is typically what I'll do. is I will use Gloom Shrine with the when I go to do my legions, I'll pop the Gloom Shrine and then I'll immediately go to the legions, just because it makes sure that I can ensure that I absolutely get all the rewards on here. I'm not going to loot this. It's going to be too much to cover for one video. But again, nothing to worry about in this build. You can kind of take things at your leisure. Very safe build. You can AFK in the middle of things if you need to. Like if I needed to go hands off the keyboard because wife needs me to go do something, or animals are going crazy and doing something they're not supposed to, I can just get up if I need to. And there's nothing to worry about. You're not going to die. As you can see there, I mean, we can show a better example if we need to, but I've already showed this in another build as well. This one just takes it even further than the lightning arrow character did for obvious reasons. The tankiness on this is basically unreal, just because of all the flasks and the flask effect that we are getting, as well as just the permanent flasks. So as we have the character name here, Mage Blood at Home. I don't need a Mage Blood because we have a Mage Blood at Home on this character, so we don't have to do anything. And yeah, so that's kind of what you're getting with this. I'll go ahead and showcase the boss here in a clip here right now. So first things first, let's go over how this build actually works here. The build itself is using where you are casting temporal chains with this Impending Doom support attached to it in order to actually get the curse to end. What we are doing is we are overriding the curse by casting more curses that are not temporal chains. So in this case, I am running Enfeeble, Despair, and Punishment in my gloves. One important thing to note is that because the cooldown is longer on Vixen's enchantments than on the Impending Doom, you are casting curses enough to where the curse that will not be on the monster at all times will be the first curse that is in the Vixen's entrapments gloves. So in this case, which is the Enfeeble here, I don't personally need it on the build because of the Defiance of Destiny necklace and things that I'm running. So instead, the curses that I am actively running on monsters and on bosses are going to be Despair, Punishment, and Temporal Chains. In order to get up to 3 total curses on the enemy, we are grabbing Whispers of Doom up here, and we are getting another additional curse here from Vixen's entrapments. A lot of the things that are based on the tree are just going to be Flask Effect Duration or Flask Effect. The other important thing that you do end up needing if you are trying to go this route to where everything has a 0 mana cost is you do need to get exactly 25% reduced mana cost to skills on either a Topaz or a Ruby Flask with 25% increased effect. That increased effect is required in order for you to get the increased effect of the reduced mana cost to skills. That paired with the Skittering Runes Anointment. This is how we're getting our mana cost on our curse skills all the way down to 0. And then of course you do need the reduced mana cost on your rings. You can use again Catalyst, as I was saying, when you craft these so you can get to -8, or you can just buy some that are already at -10 if you don't want to buy these specific synthesized bases. It's not required. It's probably honestly cheaper to just go the other route. I was just trying to maximize damage on these and I had extra money to do so. Yeah, so now that we covered roughly how the build works, let's go ahead and showcase it here in a delve. Alright, so let's go ahead and do some delve. As I was saying here, I like to swap out my jewel here for a phasing while haste jewel for delve. You can just use a standard phasing on kill abyss jewel instead, but I have this, so I figure I might as well use it. And let's go ahead and do a delve right now. Best things about this build is because of the permanent phasing with the jewel, I can just shield charge through everything if I don't actually want to have to kill anything. I don't have to. This build is exceptionally good at searching behind any walls if you need to. And you can pretty much play the game one-handed if you really want to, like, eat a sandwich while you're playing or whatever you're trying to do. You know, you can bind your Plague Bearer and your Malevolence to your mouse if you want to. And I kind of just sit still and hold right click if you want to. You're pretty much immune to anything. You know, unless there's a degen or something you have to get out of, but you can still just move. You have plenty of time because of Lethe Shade, so you can do that. Next node, continue. This isn't long enough to have a wall, so we're just going to shield charge through over to the next node. And push it forward. Enough. Keep pushing. Like this. Not going to be anything we're going to see, but we can go ahead and showcase a. So I mean, you can see here if I literally just don't even attack. These can't kill me. Like I can just kind of sit here and tank everything if we really need to, but yeah, we can just go kill stuff here. Very safe on this. Where are these mobs at? So I don't have enough light, so we're not seeing everything. Let me go ahead and showcase a longer path here, so you can kind of get a feel for some walls here. Let's go ahead and showcase this. Because of the speed and the phasing, again, you don't really have to worry about as much on this. You can just kind of freely run as deep as you need to. Get your dynamite and your flare down. Get another one down. Light your stuff. And back out. On to the next. So there you have it. You can see, again, quite tanky because of just the other stuff. Like, nothing can... Very safe Delver. This will maintain for a really long time, like, unless you start pushing this into the, 700 plus, even with some crazy amount of mods on there because of the max hit on this being, like, about 40, 50k, something like that. You're going to be able to survive quite a bit of stuff. Yeah, so next up, let's go ahead and showcase the boss, and then other than that, it'll just be on for you guys to go ahead and start it. It's not the craziest boss by any means, but let's just go ahead and show a delve boss here. Oh, I guess I was standing in a totem beam. Took me a good second. It's been a while since I did this boss. I forgot how he works. I think I'm supposed to get outside if I remember correctly now. Avoid some beams. Let's see here. Yeah. Character is making me lazy though, because since I'm just being able to face tank things, I don't have to move anymore, so I just don't half the time. Probably tank the beams things on this too. I'm gonna just try it. Put it to the test. It's the worst that could happen. I think he's gonna get to cast it before he dies. Oh, that's supposed to kill me. Yeah, anything that's multi-hit that would normally be really scary, just not scary at all on this. Oh yeah, phase 2. Beams? Yeah, look at that. Much damage. All right, so some final caveats with this build. It is pretty complex compared to some of the other things that you can play out there. It does have a lot of moving pieces and a lot of things that need to be specific in order for it to work. If you do have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll be more than happy to answer them and help out however I can. Other than that, try to follow the path of building. I'll put some, again, the important things, which is the spreadsheet for making sure you're hitting your cast speed and your cooldown reduction breakpoints, which are again at 25% and 50% cooldown reduction, as well as ensuring you have all the pieces in place in order to have a 0 mana cost on everything that you have. Which mainly for that really comes down to having that perfect increased effect flask, as well as a certain amount of flask effect on your gear or on your tree, things like that, in order to get yourself down to that 0 mana cost. So, other than that, see you in the next one.